What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be doing our Arizona Cardinals 7-round 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love for you guys to join the community. We're doing this for every single team, so even if this is not your team, just know we're going to be going through it. This is going to be super fun. We're getting all these done before free agency, and then we're going to be doing one after. If you do have some guys in mind that you want me to collaborate with, feel free to drop that down below. I'm going to probably try to get Blake Murphy on. I know that he's somebody who I've collaborated with in the past, so super excited to try to maybe get him on the show. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time, and this is a live mock draft. We will be referencing the Our Lads Arizona depth chart, but for the time being, let's just sit, relax, and see how the first picks fall. So we got some interesting fallers to us, one that we will definitely be discussing in depth, but let's take a look at this depth chart. Offensively, I do think the running back wise, we're not going to be looking at any of that. Quarterback wise, I feel like we're pretty set as well. Tight end, you got your blocking tight end, receiving tight end. Elijah Higgins, a nice little tweener from wide receiver, back from Stanford, which is super fun. And then, of course, offensive line-wise, you can totally upgrade that right tackle spot. You have the offensive line coach from Ohio State, so it's certainly possible that you guys could be looking in that realm. Isaiah Adams, I believe, a third-round pick in last year's draft. Hajalti Frohol, I do think a guard is absolutely paramount at the very minimum this draft. Receiving-wise, I do think even though it is an RFA for Greg Dortch, you could be looking to upgrade that slot. There's a lot of very good value slots in this draft as well. So offensively, I do feel like there's a couple holes for us to fill, but at the same time, we're actually doing pretty damn well. Apologies about the ads. It is what it is, but I did not feed the cookies. If you guys apparently want to, you guys can get some limited, some 90,000 mile bonus card, which I didn't even get that when I signed up, but that is not the point. Right now, we're going to be talking about the defense. Defensive interior has been an issue for a long time. And Darius Robinson is supposed to be taking that big step up, hopefully coming off that injury. And, fingers crossed, he can end up taking that 3-4 defensive end role. Nose tackle-wise, we still need some help, and then potentially even upgrading at the other odd front defensive end would be great. And then we look at the linebacker-wise. Will linebacker Kaiser White, certainly something that we could try to upgrade right now with being able to get a Baron Browning and Kaiser White hybrid defender, because Bijo Jalari needs to step up into that role. He needs to get healthier. Xavier Thomas on the back end, somebody who could definitely take a step up, one of my favorite players from the last year's draft. I honestly think that a Will linebacker that has pass rushing capabilities that can end up flexing to the edge on certain sets is going to be super duper valuable. I'm kind of pitching Jihad Campbell right now. Corner wise, I do think if you can get a large, heavier boundary corner, that's going to be super key. I do not see a legitimate high-end number one style corner here that has above 6 feet tall and then over 200 pounds. Loved Garrett Williams, loved Max Melton, like really good groups of guys, and Elijah Jones, in my opinion, having him for depth is really awesome. Looking at the safety realm, even having DTD as a depth safety who should be getting even more and more reps, I love that. Budda Baker obviously does not need any introduction. So you guys are in a pretty damn solid spot in terms of how this draft is structured. Good edge depth, really solid players that can both play edge and linebacker, very similar to how Baron Browning came out. And then we also have a very stacked defensive interior class. With all that being said, let's jump back into this. And we got Malachi Starks here. Not going to be a need. You got Jihad Campbell, who, again, I already made my pitch for him. Josh Simmons could pair back up with his Ohio State coach and then end up playing guard for us and or right tackle, depending on it. But then also, we could talk about Derek Harmon. I'm not going to go defensive interior first round, but if you want to fix the other 3-4 D end, Shamar Stewart is on the table. There's a lot that can go right. There's a lot that can go wrong. But when we have pick 47, I trust good edge value to be there. At 78, I trust good defensive interior value to be there. So we could kind of address the defense all at that point and or offensive interior. And same thing with 114 to 153. And those are our 5 picks for the draft. So no trades in this. I think that the best return on investment would be replace Kaiser White with someone who could also play a Baron Browning role, since I want Bijo Jalari to soak up the majority of the edge reps, but I also want someone who is going to be a pass rushing threat regardless. We need to boost the defensive potential in the pass rush, and Jihad Campbell is the #1 edge rusher from his high school class. This has not been a pick I've done very often, but I'm starting to think that he is not getting outside of the top 20. Apparently, Todd Bowles is a big fan of Jahad Campbell. I cannot see him falling out of the top 20. This is a very realistic range for him to go. And honestly, a dark horse spot for him to go would be in division at both the 49ers as well as the Seahawks. So it's another way of limiting what could be. At number 47, Tyler Booker's here out of realism because there's no fucking way that Tyler Booker gets here. This is just Trev's board that's not updated. Tyler Booker has 34.5-inch arms. Like, out of respect for reality, I think this would be, if he somehow makes it here, best move on planet Earth, right? Let's not fuck around, all right? I think that's definitely worth discussing, but it's just, again, out of respect for realism, and you guys are here to get a representative understanding of what the hell I should be expecting. Do not expect Tyler Booker to be here. I already just went Braden Swinson in my last mock draft, so I'm going to be avoiding that, even though in an odd front, it'd be pretty cool. But I also don't really think you need to go the edge route solely for the reason I mentioned earlier, which is you have Jahad Campbell's pass rushing ability where he solves two roles at once. And not because he's like not good enough at either, but because he ends up adding extra value even as a pass rusher where he can legitimately be an every down pass rusher. Defensive interior wise, you have some really, really good choices on your hands here. Omar Norman-Lott's a little bit too small. You'd have to use him as that odd front defensive end. Alfred Collins is extremely, extremely high floor. I'd be really happy with that. But my target would be CJ West at this moment or Jamari Caldwell to play that nose role and or 3-4 defensive end. That's like kind of where my head is at. We could end up trying to, reevaluate and go after Alfred Collins, who's extremely solid, very reliable guy to play the nose for us if we do need it. But let's evaluate some other options here as well. We only have 5 picks. So, it's also some good time for us to be able to explore some other options. And honestly, Donovan Jackson could end up being here. He doesn't have like 35, 36-inch arms. Like, there is a chance he could be slipping to the zone. I think it's far higher likelihood than probably the safest prospect that we have probably seen in Tyler Booker. Like, I do think that you have to take a swing on Donovan Jackson because of his athletic traits. It is somehow possible that he's here. And I love the idea that we can use him right away at that left guard spot where he is very comfortable with the left tackle potential and even right tackle potential with Paris Johnson right there. So I think that's great. You end up pairing him back up with his his former coach on the offensive line. And again, it is not so far out of the realm of possibility that it's like unfeasible or infeasible. Like, it makes sense that he could potentially be there, and I really want to take advantage of that. Ooh, I like how this fell. 78. I'm looking at Jordan Burch right here for that defensive end. I might even say screw the nose. This guy came in at 280 pounds, 279, and ran a sub 4.7 40. This is one of the best athletes I've seen. I really think that that's going to be much better value for us than going after any of these other positions. Shout out to Anthony Belton and love him to death. Honestly, that might be the best value that we can have. Again, we already addressed pass rusher essentially with Jahad Campbell, who's also playing will linebacker for us. We're giving our other pass rushers opportunities. We've already addressed offensive line with Donovan Jackson as well. We need to go for someone on the defensive front and someone who can even play stand up in certain sets and even be an even front in nickel packages to be a even front edge. That's Jordan Burch, and I love that to death. Not a huge fan of Jordan Phillips at this point. I think Jordan Burch is ridiculous value, and the athletic potential is unbelievable. I'm going to support it. At number 114, a lot of really good players on the board. I'm actually looking at J.J. Peggy's at this point to play the nose for us. This guy's arguably, he could test it out as a fullback and a potential tight end as well. Really, really good player. Really good player nonetheless. Femi Oladejo is ridiculous value here, but again, I don't want to continue pressing that. I don't know why Trev is so low on him. It is what it is. But let's take another quick peek back at our team. We end up addressing the left guard hole. We still could be going after a slot, but Greg Dortch is an RFA. He's not like a UD or a UFA. And so we already addressed that. We have Darius Robinson going up here. We do have another left defensive end that we brought into the equation. And also he can be even as one of the outside linebackers as well, which is super nice having that flexibility. Defensive back-wise, I really do think that it's going to be tough justifying it. Kobe Bryant with his 4.5 is just some bullshit. Like, Noel Williams is possible. He ran in the 4.5s, but He's around that 6 foot mark. I would probably try to take a swing like, man, I mean, there's not many corners I would take a swing on. I would just try to make it work with what I got. JJ Peggies is someone who I have yet to show some love, but he's a really, really fun player. And, you could go after Zeke Biggers here as well. Very, very good player. JJ Peggies deserves a lot more love, though. I mean, this guy is very difficult to stop in both the run as well as the pass. I got to see him up close at the Shrine, and he popped off. Again, like he's really, really good build for the nose as well. And then you can use him as a fullback in certain packages, which we always love that. So personally, I think that's the route we're going to go. We already addressed now the defense 3 times and the offense once. So maybe we can end up getting some more help there for our quarterback at pick number 153. Kyle Williams, I've already taken him multiple times, and I love him so much because he's just such a good player. I'm going to be looking maybe at another player to play the slot. Looking at Jimmy Horn Jr. here and LaJohntay Wester, 2 of my favorite wide receivers in the whole draft. I'm going to look at Jimmy Horn Jr. here as my favorite for this team. Like if you want to go and get someone who's basically a better version of Greg Dortch, you're going to go after Jimmy Horn. I have him comped to a worse version of Antonio Brown. Really good short range separator. That's probably going to be my pick at 153. Let's evaluate a couple other options. You could try to get another interior offensive lineman. Big fan of Miles Frazier, Jackson Slater as well. Like really good players there who also have tackle versatility. Offensive line wise, of course, you can talk about Emory Jones and Johnny Cornelius. Holland Pierce would be fun to develop, but at the same time, we have Donovan Jackson there as it is. Let's not get a little bit too far ahead of ourselves. We don't really have any corners here that I love. Odinell Fortune is just a really solid player to have as a depth corner. You're not getting a starter at this point. Kyle Monangai is going to end up being a top 5 running back on my board. Finally got some Rutgers offensive tape, and it's just, this guy is so underrated. It's ridiculous, but that's not for you guys really to care about. I think we are going to go and, I think that we need to, what was I even looking at? Wide receiver here, and we're going to end up going after Jimmy Horn Jr. to provide that explosiveness. Even if he ends up being a depth player, I really, really love what he brings to the table. So this is going to be the draft. We addressed will linebacker to replace Kaiser White, but also someone who is a legitimate edge rusher in Jahad Campbell. You have Donovan Jackson here to play guard and potentially tackle for us depending on the situation. Maybe Jonah Williams can play one more year. Donovan Jackson fills in the short-term need at his native left guard position and then has a potential future there at the tackle spot. Defensive end here in Jordan Birch, who's going to be playing that odd front D end next to JJ Peggies, who's a really good nose, great value at 114, and an explosive weapon here in Jimmy Horn Jr. Super excited about how this turned out. Really love all these players, so hopefully you guys do too. Thank you so much for watching. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.